What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the spot. We're doing something a little different today. We're not going to do a Raw or SmackDown recap. Kind of putting that on hold until after the holidays and everything dies down. We get a normal fucking life back.
Yeah,
So we're going to do some top five lists for a few different things. And yeah,
because we're bored and it sounds fun.
yeah, it's Friday. We're not doing shit. I think it's Friday. I don't know what day it is.
My days run together at this point. I work too.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. But yeah, I'll let you go ahead and run into the first one, and you can read your full like. I guess we'll just do it like your full five and then my full five.
Sounds good, and then we can discuss them.
Yep. All right. So I'll
Um,
let you lead into it.
so first off, we're gonna do our top five gimmick matches of all time. This is not just like match type. This is like the actual match people. Um, Number five, it's kind of a little bit different, but Killshot versus Dante Fox from the Lucha Underground season three finale. Probably the most violent match to ever get shown on cable TV. Um, was honestly great. I loved it. Was a blast. You could see Killshot and Dante Fox just get busted open in a lot of very gruesome, bloody ways. My number four is Cena versus Edge TLC. Just a great match overall. Probably it was kind of the end of the first part of the Cena and Edge feud, and it was big. Number three, Bray versus Roman at Hell in a Cell. This is the only Hell in a Cell match on my list. But Bray versus Roman at Hell in a Cell was one of my favorite, one of my favorite matches. Period. Um, One of our best buddies, Big Blue, me and him watched it together, and for whatever reason we watched it, it was just blew us both away. And you got to see a really athletic Bray Wyatt, which I always like. Number two, TLC from WrestleMania 17. Just a classic, always enjoyable. And my number one, kind of an odd choice, but just always the one I always think of first, is Elimination Chamber 2006. It was a fine match overall, but it's really the end of it whenever Edge cashes in the first Money in the Bank, and people all of a sudden realize, holy shit, that's exactly what you can do with that thing. And gets the Edge finally win his first world title. So yeah,
Okay. Well, this works out great because we have none from the first list that actually overlap.
amazing.
Yeah, that was it's pretty
Yeah,
incredible. Also, we haven't told each other our lists. We just made them up talking to each other, but we haven't actually told each other what they are.
yeah,
Um,
no, we called each other before this and literally made it, but didn't even discuss what we were putting.
yeah, and most of mine I made before I even talked to you. So, um,
Yeah.
but I'll go ahead and jump into mine. My number five. I was back and forth on which one to include, but I feel like this one impacted me more as a kid than the first one did, and that's TLC 2 at WrestleMania 17. Um, Edge and Christian, the Hardys, the Dudleys. That I You get that fantastic spot where Jeff is holding on to the belts from the rope hingy thingy, and Edge spears them off from the ladder, and they hit the ground and die.
One of my
Uh,
favorites.
yeah, that match just that WrestleMania in general is just amazing, and maybe we should have done a top five Mania too, but maybe we can do that later. Um,
We'll work on it.
yeah, but that match is one of the matches that it's one of the first matches that I remember as a kid. I was like, wow, wrestling is pretty fucking cool. Um, yeah, TLC 2, great match. I fucking love that match so much. But moving on to number four, we both have an Edge TLC match, but this one is not. You said Edge and Cena TLC, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, well, mine is Edge and Taker TLC from One Night Stand 2008.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a great match. I fucking love that match. It's for the World Heavyweight Championship, and a lot of really good spots. Taker took like a really, really nasty like ladder tip spot to the outside in this match.
Yeah, I remember that. Oh,
Yeah,
that's another show we should look at some point soon.
yeah. The One Night Stand pay per views had a really good run for a while until they just turned it into Extreme Rules.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. I have my Hell in a Cell match. The only one on my list. which is Batista versus Triple H at Vengeance 2005, also
That was
for
the
the World
other,
Heavyweight title.
that was the other match I was trying to decide for my Hell in a Cell.
Yeah,
I fuck, I fucking love that match.
it was between this and Batista Taker, but because of the way the Batista Taker match ended, um, with Edge running interference towards the end of it,
Yeah.
I decided to
Yeah.
go with this one, and it really is like it's a super bloody match. Um, one of like it actually may be my favorite Batista match, other than his WrestleMania match with Taker. Um, it's another one of those matches that when I was a kid, I was just like, this is why I watch wrestling. This is really good
Yep.
match, good storytelling all around. This is right after the Evolution split with Batista from Evolution. They kind of dissolved.
Yeah.
Uh,
Which
yeah,
could be bringing that back up soon.
could be. I really hope so. I hope to see him back. But moving on, I have War Games '92, and I have discussed this with you a
Oh.
couple of times. This is one of my favorite matches of all time. Uh, yeah, Sting Squadron versus Polly Dangerously's Dangerous Alliance. It just a classic. It's just a classic match. Um I'm a big Dangerous Alliance fan, and I know the Sting Squadron won that match, but that's okay because the match on itself was amazing. Plus,
Yeah.
you have a bunch of my favorites now. You got Stunning Steve Austin, which is unpopular opinion, but that's my favorite version of Steve Austin. Larry Zabisco's in there as well. I love Larry.
Podcast is over, guys. We're done.
I just love Stunning Steve, man. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but I had Stunning Steve, Larry Zabisco, Arn Anderson, Rick Rude, Sting, obviously, Ricky Steamboat. Trying to remember who all was in there. Whatever, we'll move on. I can't remember everyone. But my favorite gimmick match and also my favorite match of all time, just so happens to be packaged into one there, is Jericho versus Shawn Michaels in that ladder match from No Mercy 2008 for the World Heavyweight title. A lot of these matches are for the World Heavyweight title.
The World Heavyweight title had a lot of really good like ladder matches.
The World
Like
Heavyweight
it.
title was the good match world championship, whereas the WWE title was just like and I'm not saying the WWE title didn't have good title matches, but
Yeah, but like historically, just how it's been the last few years. No, I agree.
yeah,
I think the big thing with these gimmick matches is so many of them are so subjectively good or bad that
yeah.
like it was kind of hard to have an actual top five for
Like
those.
a lot of people wouldn't put War Games '92 on theirs simply because it's like a much older match, and the way
But
it's
it's a
set
good
up
match.
is differently. And it's weird for me to even like that match. I was born like 5 years after that match happened, but you know,
Yeah, because you're like 12.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like 12 years old. Um,
Um, but moving on to the next category, uh, pre-Attitude Era. Um, Number five for me is Ricky Steamboat. I love Ricky Steamboat. Him and Ric Flair's classic billion and three matches together is some of the best strings of matches of all time. Um, One of the first real high flyers, in my opinion. And he was a big dude too. He wasn't a tiny little guy. Um, yeah, love Ricky Steamboat. Probably my favorite Intercontinental champion as well. Um, Number four, I have Sting. If for no other reason other than the fact that I love Sting, but he doesn't fit anywhere else on my any of my other lists. I do, contrary to Sam, enjoy Surfer Boy Sting. I think he's fun, enjoyable. Um,
Now I want
you
to.
know,
It's not that I don't like that version of Sting. It's just that the Crow SK Sting character I like more.
fair. Um,
Not that I don't like old Sting, but I just prefer one over the other.
that's fair. Um, Number three for me is Dusty Rhodes. Uh, I just I love the simple man story, and whenever it works well, it works great. And he was the ultimate simple man story. Um, he in his I mean his lineage now is still carried on through Cody and whatever the hell Bill Dust's real name is.
It's
Yeah,
Dustin.
I love Dusty
Dustin.
Rhodes. The innovator of so many different matches, helped create a lot of great things in WCW. Also had my favorite bull rope match of all time. Um, so yeah, Dusty Rhodes, one of my favorite wrestlers. Number two is Ric Flair. I love old Ric Flair, and I didn't really discover it until probably um, his. Uh, he was the first guy to really, I feel like, personify that rich bad boy heel, and man, he did it well. And after watching his, I don't know if you've watched his ESPN documentary, but man, you learn a lot about him. You
Yeah,
respect him, but you also learn how crazy he is.
I haven't seen it yet, but I have been meaning to check it out.
It's a good watch. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Number one for me is Macho Man Randy Savage. Fucking love Macho Man. Nothing that I don't love about Macho Man. He's just a, I don't know. I, Growing up, he was probably the first old school wrestler I saw, and I was like, wow, I would love to be that. He's a big dude, but he's not, Hulk Hogan tall or Ultimate Warrior jacked. He's just a huge wrestler. His storyline with Miss Elizabeth is one of the few actually heartwarming storylines that wrestling has ever produced. Um, and his world title win is probably one of the greatest moments of WWE. Yeah, that's my top five.
Okay, so there's someone you left out, and it kind of hurts my feelings. And he kicks off my top five, and that's Ravishing Rick Rude.
Well, I have Ravishing Rick Rude in another part of mine, so
Okay, well, that's okay. That's fair enough. But yeah, Rick Rude kicks mine off. There's just nothing. There's nothing about him that you can dislike. He's a great wrestler. He had a great character. He had great charisma. He's one of the best heels of all time. Uh, he's fucking Rick Rude. I don't need to explain that. I don't think.
You're talking
Um,
about the guy that literally told WWE he was gonna go run over to WCW and pretend to work for them, and then he showed up in ECW the same weekend.
yeah, he worked for all three major promotions in 1 week, or showed up on the
He's a,
programming at least.
I love Rick Rude.
He's incredible. But number four, I have Mr. Perfect.
Oh,
Yeah, yep, yeah. A big Mr. Perfect fan. He is perfect. And his little gum slap, I do that every time I have gum in my mouth. If I have gum in my mouth and I'm outside in like a parking lot or something, I will spit it out and try to swat it out of the air. Every single time. It's a guarantee. You can always expect
how
it to
many
happen.
times have you made it?
I'd say I have an 80% completion percentage.
Hey, I mean, that's not terrible.
The 20% is from when I first started doing it. I was really bad at it. Had no hand-eye coordination, hand-mouth coordination, I guess.
Now it's like 100.
Yeah, pretty much. Number three, I had Jake Roberts, but you brought up Steamboat, and I did not even think about Steamboat. This list was really hard for me, to be honest. This is the hardest list for me to do outside of
Yeah.
like maybe Attitude Era.
Well, and we didn't really grow up during this part, so
No, so a lot of this is just me going off of like watching stuff with my dad, and, like my grandpa growing up. Um, yeah, I'm gonna replace Jake Roberts with Ricky Steamboat because everything you said about Steamboat made me realize I like Steamboat a little more than I like Jake Roberts. But if this is a top 10, Jake Roberts would be on there. I swear to God. But yeah, I got to put Steamboat at three. In two, we both had Ric Flair. He did a lot for. I mean, everywhere he went, he did a lot, except maybe TNA. But we don't talk about that.
We don't discuss.
Yeah, the stuff he did in NWA, WCW, WWF. I mean, everything he did was just incredible. Number one is maybe my most biased pick out of them all, and that's Arn Anderson. Arn Anderson's one of my favorites of all time. Um,
Yeah.
I'd even put him at two. Honestly, he's my number two favorite of all time. Uh,
Well, we have an all-time list later.
yeah. We'll have our all-time list later, but yeah, Arn Anderson. I'll let you go into the next one.
Next one is ECW. My number 5 is Shane Douglas. Um, Primetime Shane Douglas is probably one of, if not my favorite, pre 2000 heels. I really wish he could have actually got a good WWE run. He would have rocked it. He had everything for it. I think it kind of held him back a little bit. But yeah, I love Shane Douglas. His ECW run is one of the longest and one of the probably the most infuriating and fun things to watch. Number 4 is Walmart Stone Cold Sandman. um, I love
Yeah, shut it down. Shut it down. We're done.
Sandman was actually the first shirt I ever got when I was in 6th grade. Like first wrestling shirt I ever got. Got it in 6th grade. It said the word "damn" on the back of it, and I thought I was really cool for it. Um, and then I got the WWE Network, 2-3 years ago, and watched a lot of old Sandman. I was like, holy shit, this guy's actually pretty awesome. He has some pretty fun matches. Him and Raven's feud is one of the best. One of my favorite feuds, even if it does get a bit graphic for some people. Um, Number 3 is Taz. The Human Suplex Machine is awesome, and he probably would have actually been higher on my list if his WWE run hadn't stunk. Um, but he was probably one of my favorite early technical wrestlers. His suplexes. I know we joke on the podcast and when we're all hanging out a lot that I I will analyze the pro wrestlers because I used to wrestle, but like Taz can, it's it's number 2 is Raven. Raven is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He probably wouldn't make my top 5, but he's pretty high up there. I just love the cerebral weirdness of him. Um, I wish that he didn't have such a niche audience and he could have caught on more in WWE or WCW, but whatever. Number 1, and you're gonna hear this name a lot on here, RVD. One of my favorite wrestlers ever. RVD is amazing. I think he's probably one of my favorite in ring. Probably one of my favorite mute intros. There's nothing I don't enjoy about him. I like his body. I like who he is. Guy. And that's my top 5.
All right. Well, we have a few that overlap, which I expected. And my number 5 is Taz. And he would be up higher. But there's just the guys I have in front of him. I couldn't justify putting him ahead of them. And my 4th, and I'm not saying I don't love Taz because I do, but like I said, the guys I have in front of him are just, I couldn't justify putting him ahead.
Understandable.
My 4th is Bam Bam, and this is a 2-parter. 1, I actually do love Bam Bam a lot, but if I didn't put Bam Bam on this list, Blue would probably fucking kill me. Huh?
I'm glad that at least one of us did.
Yeah, he'd kick our ass if we didn't include Bam Bam in one of these lists. But I do include Bam Bam. Bam Bam actually had one of my favorite matches in ECW history with his match in Taz where they went through the fucking ramp. And that, I don't even know if it was a world title match. I think it may have been. But yeah, Bam Bam's in a lot of my favorite matches in ECW. Love Bam Bam. Chris, don't kill me, please. I put him on here. Just love me. But my number 3 is RVD. And it's basically the same things you brought up. I love everything that he is. And the fact that he made the TV title feel more important than the world title for a really long time. Like a really long time.
110-day reign? Is that how long it was?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless her.
It's ridiculous that he made the mid-card title feel more important than the world title for that long. Over a year.
I'm going to smoke you.
Yeah. My number 2 is the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer. Felt like it would be a sin to not include Tommy on this, and it helps that he was included in a lot of storylines that really drew me into watching ECW. Because I think that's something that a lot of people look over when it comes to watching ECW is they think it's all about the violence and the hardcore matches, but a lot of the reasons I watch, a lot of the reasons I watch ECW is their stories are they were just amazing. it, if you've never watched an ECW show or a pay per view or just like you just need to sit down and first off you need to watch Taz and Sabu's feud from start to finish.
One of the best feuds of any or any promotion ever.
Yeah, it's a great story. My number one is Raven, and all for the same reasons you said. But Raven is like, you said something about him having a very niche audience, and I am that audience. Like me and Blue both, and we've both talked about this a lot. Is Raven's just, I don't, his look, the way he presents himself, his wrestling style, everything about him is just, I can connect with it. I don't know, man. I just really fucking love Raven. He's incredible in the ring. He had a great story, and he did that like crucified Sandman thing, which like threw a lot of people off. But like that was one of the things. That was like one of the main things he did that I was really like, holy fuck, this guy's like, he's a fucking
He was one of the
badass.
first guys to just like push that bar and just not feel bad about it.
Yeah, yeah. He's the side of ECW that's like. He's the side of ECW is like why I wasn't allowed to watch it until I was like 12 years old.
Or until I got WWE Network, basically.
Yeah, yeah. But go ahead and move on to the next one.
Up next, we're actually going to do the Attitude Era. My number 5 Attitude Era, and Am has already given me shit for this, but whatever. Is going to be the Undertaker. I understand the importance of the Undertaker in the WWE, and I think he's one of the all-time greats, of course. To me personally, though, I just did never, I don't know, super connect with him. Although I do like to tell everyone that I am a big, big Biker Taker fan. I enjoy Biker Taker. I think he's fun, even though everyone else.
Yeah, and we've talked about that. We both love Biker Taker. I mean, I'd even say I like Biker Taker the most out of any of his versions. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, no, I don't know. There's just something about him that was just so fun, and it was goofy, but it wasn't. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Up next, I have Chris Jericho. I could have put Chris Jericho on every single one of the post Attitude Era lists that we have. He's just an all-time great. Some of his feuds whenever he first came in, first undisputed champion. I mean, he is one of the most dynamic wrestlers of all time. He's someone who never stays static. He's constantly doing something new, whether it's this NJPW thing, which I don't even know if you've seen today. They announced he's going to be working a show like right after Wrestle.
Yeah, it's the New Year's Dash show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, this guy and his character there is this almost like Attitude Era-esque Jericho that's just cocky and doesn't give a fuck in any case.
I bet they're gonna have him work Jujiro.
Takahashi?
Yeah,
Why?
I don't know. I just feel like I don't know. They're gonna stick him with someone random.
That'd be such a waste.
Well, okay, whatever. It's what I want.
Well, I mean, you have a stupid choice.
Fuck you.
Number 3, even though he was really only alive for about 2 or 3 years of the Attitude Era, is Rick Rude. Just because I really love Rick Rude, wanted him on this list for every reason that you listed. One of the all-time greats. His appearance in ECW, for people who haven't seen it, Edge actually throws back to it whenever he runs into the Cena and RVD match at One Night in 2006. When he runs in wearing the biker helmet and jacket, Rick Rude did that in ECW that week that he showed up on every promotion. It's fun. I loved it. Number 2 is Stone Cold Steve Austin, for every reason that everyone likes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Number 1 is Mankind. He was that first everyman story that I really saw, not in person, but kind of live and as it happened. He and he also had that. I'm a big fan of creepy wrestlers that don't cross into cheesy. Not Bray Wyatt really. Um, but Mankind was that creepy level of neurotic, but he was also fun and energetic, and like when he was a face, he was funny, and I don't know, I love Man. And his win on Raw is obviously what changed the ratings war, and probably my favorite Raw moment ever. And that's my top five.
Okay, on mine, I cheated a little bit. Um,
Uh-oh.
I have a tie at number 5, and I forgot to mention this to you, but I cheated. Um, because I couldn't put one in without putting the other, and not that they're like directly connected, but they were for a while. But Kane and Mankind are tied at 5 for me.
Yeah, fair.
And I couldn't put one on there without including the other, and I couldn't take anyone else off my list because they couldn't not be included as well. Mankind's on there for all the reasons you just said. And that I'll just say Mick Foley instead of Mankind because every incarnation of Mick that was in the Attitude Era,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, I agree with that. Mick Foley in general, not just
Yeah.
Mankind.
yeah, because like his dude love character, really cheesy, but I fucking loved it when I was a kid. Like his whole feud with Stone Cold over the title back then is
Yeah.
amazing. One of my favorite feuds. Yeah, Kane's on there for obvious reasons. I'm not even going to explain that. Um, Number 4, I have The Rock. Um, I'm I'm not the biggest Rock fan, and I will admit that, but I am a huge Rock promo fan. And
Yeah.
I actually just last night laid on my couch and watched Rock promos for like 2 hours last night, just laughing my ass off.
He's probably the
Um,
greatest promo in the game.
yeah, yeah, he just oozed charisma. And I mean, I'm including Rock, everything from like the Nation of Domination up until I don't know when's the cutoff for the Attitude Era, WrestleMania 17. We'll go all the way up to
Uh,
that.
no, I thought it keeps going. I mean, I would say 19. Well, was 19 ruthless? I would say 18 was the last. Like it was like the end of the Attitude Era.
Okay, well, even all the way up to 18, we had that match with Hogan. Like everything The Rock did was just great. Um, and I'm not saying I don't like The Rock. I know I've said I'm not a fan of The Rock, but I am a fan of The Rock. I maybe went a little too strong with that. But there's just so many more guys that I have that I like more than I do The Rock. Um,
It's kind of how I feel about Undertaker.
yeah, and that's fair. But at number 3, I have Triple H. And I could have included him on, just like Jericho, I could have included him on every list. But I also could have included Triple H on every list. Um, but I decided to put him on this list because this is my favorite version of Triple H. You had the original Shawn and Triple H and Rick Rude, if you want to include him in the DX, that version of DX. And then after Shawn left, you had X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws and all them. Uh, his feud with Stone Cold, his feud with The Rock, his feud with Mick Foley, which is one of my favorite feuds ever. He's like a 2,000 time world champion. And the
And your dad.
yeah, Andy's my father, so I can't include him. I couldn't have not included him. I would have got grounded if I didn't.
Exactly.
Um, Number 2 to Stone Cold, for obvious reasons. He is the Attitude Era.
We both had Stone Cold at number 2. That's impressive.
Yeah. And number 1, I did tell you about my number 1 because you said he was your number 5 and it pissed me off. It's The Undertaker. Uh, The Undertaker, he's just like Jericho and Triple H. He could have been on every list on here. But the stuff he did in the Attitude Era was just. I mean, there's not a lot of feuds you can name, like you can throw out there in the Attitude Era that he wasn't a big part of.
Yep. No,
He was included on almost every main storyline. Ministry Taker, I know Ministry Taker is Blue's favorite Taker, and he's my second favorite. Um, but yeah, everything Taker did in the Attitude Era was just amazing, and he's so important to professional wrestling as a whole, not just WWE, but as a whole. And if it wasn't for Taker, I probably would have I stopped watching wrestling for a while and I came back, and Taker was the first guy who I started paying attention to again. He's
Like I
just
said, he's one of the goats. I mean, he's amazing. Like if this was a Mount Rushmore, he'd definitely be on it.
oh yeah.
Yeah, he
And that's why we decided to do a top five instead of a Rushmore. And we talked about this before we started, but a
yeah,
Mount Rushmore is a lot less subjective than a top five.
yeah, this is just our personal preference.
Yeah, because like a Rushmore, I feel obligated to put certain gods there.
Absolutely. Yeah, if it was a Rushmore, Undertaker would have to have been on.
Yeah.
Um, so moving on, up next is our favorite tag teams ever. And I actually move out of WWE for two of mine. First one is Red Dragon, Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. I've always been a huge fan of them. Loved their work in ROH. Loved their work in JPW, PWG. And now they just recently won the NXT tag team titles. I enjoy the hell out of them. I love Bobby Fish. I think Bobby Fish could be a world champion wherever the fuck he wants. And I think Kyle O'Reilly kind of looks like a school shooter, but I think that adds to his appeal, I guess. What them and Undisputed Era and Adam Cole are doing is probably some of my favorite work ever. Number 4 is the Young Bucks. I own 3 Young Bucks shirts. I think they're hilarious. I think what they do is smart. I buy into all their shit. Fuck the haters. Number 3 is Eminem, Mercury, Nitro, and Molina. I'm a huge Johnny Nitro fan. Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, Johnny what the fuck ever.
Johnny Tag Team.
Yeah, Johnny Tag Team, Johnny ECW, Johnny Entertainment when he comes back to WWE. Yeah, I just love him. And Joey Mercury is also a great in-ring performer. I think I took some hard bumps time. One of the nastiest injuries I ever saw while watching a pay-per-view live was him getting hit with the ladder and breaking his nose on TV. And Melina. Number 2 is Cesaro. I said this a couple months back whenever Cesaro started picking up steam. I think they're gonna go down as one of the greatest tag teams of all time, legitimately. Sheamus and Cesaro alone are awesome, but together they just have that chemistry that very few guys have with each other, where you can just tell they just click perfect. And my number 1 is Rated RKO. 2 of my favorite wrestlers ever, Randy Orton and Edge. It's one of Edge's latest career tag team moves, but I think one of his funnest and one of his best, in all honesty. Those two just work well together. Their personalities and their characters are super similar, and they just meshed amazingly. But yeah, that's my top 5 tag team.
Okay, my list is way different from yours. I have one decently recent tag team, and that's it. I'll go ahead and jump into it. And my number 5 is the Brainbusters. Arn Anderson breaks his way into the fucking list again. Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Brainbusters. Just go watch them. Just do it. It's fantastic. And it's classic old school wrestling personified into one tag team. And Arn Anderson is the fucking greatest of all time. Number 4, my 4 shifted around a lot, but I think I finally settled on one. And it's Cena and El Generico.
Nice.
And that's that just what they mean to the independent scene as a team, and even like against each other once they eventually broke up. What they did as a team, I loved everything they did. I loved their when Steen was a heel and Generico was still a face, and they were still a team. I think that was a really that was a really fun dynamic. It really added to what they did as a team.
Friendship.
Yeah.
I loved it.
But my number 3 is kind of strange, I think, even to myself. But I always loved them. It's Paul London and Brian Kendrick.
Oh fuck yeah, I love
And
them.
we talked about this before when we watched a pay per view or something a while back that had Paul London and Billy Kidman.
Yes, yes,
And
we
I
did.
said I really enjoyed Paul London and Billy Kidman, but Paul London and Brian Kendrick is
Oh,
one of my favorite tag teams of all time. And I fucking love Brian Kendrick even still to this day. He
oh
should
yeah,
still be cruiserweight champion. He should have never lost that belt.
he's the
Um,
only decent cruiserweight.
yeah, yeah. But Paul London and Brian Kendrick, they've always been like one of those teams for me that I've always really loved. And I'll be right back.
That's fine.
Stall.
uh, so I feel bad. Poor guy. Friggin' break. How are you? I hope.
Okay, sorry, that was a bit of craziness. Anyway, my number. What was that? Number two.
I think so.
Okay, my number two. I was back and forth on number two as well between two teams, but I'm gonna go with the APA, the Acolytes. I love Bradshaw. I love Farouk. Uh, I don't know, man. It was really hard to pick between them and the Hardys.
Meh,
Um, come on, just come on.
meh,
Acolytes are good. They're good, especially
meh.
when they were in the ministry with Taker and doing their thing.
They're meh.
Whatever. My number one is Edge and Christian,
Woo!
and that's I don't. It's another one I'm not even going to explain.
Yeah, Edge and Christian are the goats of everything, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, yeah, they're just
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, you're gonna hear their names a lot. I have a feeling. I haven't heard his, but I have a feeling you're gonna hear their names a lot.
Yeah.
Up next, we have. Sorry, I'm trying to find where I put my pen. Uh, Up next, we have the Ruthless Aggression era. This is about the time that I really started watching, so I had a hard time with this, but this is kind of what I pinned down. Number five, uh, John Cena. I was a huge Cena mark as a kid, so I couldn't not include him. Um, Grew up loving him, and oddly enough, grew up hating the guy that's going to be my number one. But then when I became an adult, the guy that's my number one made a lot of sense. Number four is Christian. I loved him then, and he also did some work in TNA then, and I started watching TNA. Loved that. Um, Always been a big peep. Loved Edge and Christian together. Yeah, big Christian guy. Number three, on too soon, Eddie Guerrero. Um, Eddie Guerrero's title win is probably my favorite actual title win outside of RVD's. Um, Whenever he beats Brock Lesnar, I cry man tears over it every single time. His feuds with John Cena are awesome. His bull rope match with JBL is one of my favorite title matches ever. He's one of my favorite champions. Wish he was still around because I think he could still put on some clinics with some people. Um, Number two is going to be really controversial because I picked it only based off of his in-ring performance. Is Chris Benoit. Um, I loved him when I grew up. I still watch WrestleMania 20 whenever I'm bored. He's a terrible human being, but his in-ring career, like Chris Jericho has said, is something to be admired at least. So that's why he's my number two Ruthless Aggression guy. And my number one, and you're gonna hear his name a lot, is Edge. He is probably my favorite in-ring performer, one of my favorite guys on the mic. His feud with Cena is my favorite feud ever, just because of the mark it left on me as a child watching it and being like, holy crap, wrestling, awesome. But no matter who it was with, whether it was him, Edge and Cena, Edge and RVD, um,
Edge and Alberto Del Rio leading up into WrestleMania right before Edge retired. Edge always put on great feuds, great matches.
And that's my top five.
Okay, so ours is eerily similar, except for one guy. There's one difference, and that's my number five, which is Batista.
See, and he was the one I couldn't. I was deciding between him and Cena.
Yeah, Batista was a lock in, but I just couldn't decide where I wanted to put him. And a lot of these aren't like in a particular order for me, so because I just couldn't force myself to do it. Um,
Yeah.
but I do have Batista at five. Um, yeah, he just did a lot, and I touched on that a little bit with his Hell in a Cell match with Triple H, like everything he did, um, like winning the world title, splitting from Evolution, going on to be like this big figure.
His his evolution storyline is one of the best storylines in wrestling history.
Yeah, yeah, it's incredible. And the guy I mean, he had a match with the Undertaker, and
At
that's
Wrestle fucking Mania.
yeah, that's a huge that's a huge thing. And I've always loved Batista. And my number four is John Cena, and literally everything you said is everything I was going to say about John Cena. I grew up loving him, and I went on to hate him for a while, and I love him again. Uh, and he's the guy who
I think
kind of really did kick off the Ruthless Aggression era, I guess.
I
He's
think
the
me
one who
and you
said
have
it.
become Cena marks again.
Yeah, we really have. We really have, because I hated him for a while there, but then I started like, I need to appreciate this guy before he leaves, because it's happened to me a lot with some of these guys like Edge. Like I didn't appreciate Edge for like I was always a
Same.
huge Edge fan, but I feel like I didn't appreciate him enough when he was there. Because once he retired, I was like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get to watch him wrestle again.
Yep.
And my number three, which you touched on, is Chris Benoit, and I tried to be as one-sided on this as possible. I'm not looking at him as a person. Uh,
Yep.
he's nowhere near my top five for favorite people. But as far as a wrestler in this era, Chris Benoit did a lot. You know, he won the world title. He beat Triple H and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. You know, he had that great moment with
One
Eddie
of,
from 20 that you touched on.
one of my favorite moments overall is him winning the title and then him and Eddie in the ring together.
Yeah. Um, but you know what he did? That's fucking terrible. And I hate that it happened because it really tarnishes his fantastic wrestling career, but there's nothing more you can do about it. My number two is Eddie.
Woo!
And, you know, it's hard not to put him at one, but my one is. Yeah, you'll hear about it. Yeah, I love Eddie. When he died is probably like. And I know it sounds weird saying this about someone that I never even met or like wasn't a family member or a friend, but Eddie's death was like one of those things that like. I'm still not over it, to be honest.
I can remember watching TV and finding out Eddie Guerrero died, and that being one of the first times as a kid that I had ever been like legitimately sad.
Yeah, yeah, right there with you. Yeah, it was one. It was just. It sucks, but yeah, everything he did was just amazing. Even the little Rey Mysterio thing.
He turned a trash feud like that into something that was actually good.
Yeah, yeah. And my number one is Edge, just like yours. Your number one was Edge, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, our lists for Ruthless Aggression era were eerily similar, minus one. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Edge just did a lot for me, man. And I could have put him on the next one, but I decided not to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Same.
because we'll get to it. We'll get to it. I'll explain it when we get to it. But yeah, that's my top five for the Ruthless Aggression era.
Yeah. So yeah. Same. Um, Up next is the odd period, as we call it, the 2010 to 2014 of WWE. Um, if you look at my paper that I wrote all this down on, for this list, every single slot has at least two names crossed out in it, and Yeah, this is just a cluster.
Yeah,
But
I've moved a lot of guys around and changed them
but
and put them other places.
this is about as rough as I think I could put it together. Um, Number five, Dolph Ziggler. Um, I am a Dolph Ziggler fan. I like him. I always have. His cash in moment with Alberto Del Rio, outside of Edge's cash in, is my favorite cash in ever. Um, Kind of do hope he leaves WWE though. I think the guy just needs to get away for a while. Number four is The Miz because he's probably the best heel of that era. The Miz is the ultimate utility guy. You tell him what to do, he's going to be able to do it. He's going to be able to do it well, especially if when it comes to being a heel. Um, so I appreciate The Miz for what he does. Uh, Number three, mostly because this is his prime and he was in TNA, Kurt Angle. Um, Man, if you have not watched TNA Kurt Angle, go watch it because you have not watched Kurt Angle yet. That was his true prime, the 2010, 2014 years right after he left WWE. It's impressive. Number two is Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy beating Triple H and Edge at Armageddon is one of the most exciting moments I had as a kid. Or I guess I was a teenager at that point, growing up and watching that. It was so big to see that tiny, tiny tag team kid finally make it up and become a big time wrestler and win that big title. And my number one shout out to Blue is CM Punk. It's CM fucking Punk. Yeah. That's my top five.
Okay, so my number five kicks off with Dolph Ziggler as well.
What?
My number five, it's Dolph Ziggler as well.
Of course.
Yeah, it's everything you said. You already hit on it. You're stealing all my damn talking points.
Sorry.
But yeah, my five is Ziggler. So I'll just move on to my four, which is Christian
Nice.
and his feud with Randy for the world title. Everything with that. It was amazing. And I love Christian. And I was actually going to put him on the Ruthless Aggression era list for his run in TNA. But
That's
that would have
yeah,
been
that's why
Batista's spot.
that's why I put him on my Ruthless Aggression era list, which was his TNA run.
Yeah, I wanted to, but his WWE, CW, and World Heavyweight title reigns in that little awkward time slot there.
Yeah.
Outside of his TNA run is my favorite Christian run.
He was the best modern day ECW champion.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
He made that time like it mattered.
Yeah, he really did. But my number three is Randy Orton, and that kind of it somewhat plays into his feud with Christian, but also like his WWE stuff, like his WWE title stuff, and his massive heel run against Cena, which I think happened in that time frame. Maybe it was okay.
No, yeah, it was that time frame.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, that was whenever it was basically Randy and Cena main eventing every other paper.
Yeah, it was that run of terror, which a lot of people hate, but like it being the same two people, I can understand that being kind of annoying. But they never had a bad match,
Exactly.
so I never complained about it. My number two is Chris Jericho, and I wanted to put him at number one, but my number one, I just felt like can't be top because of the run he had in this time frame. But Jericho's my favorite of all time. I could have put him in literally every list on here, but I decided to put him here because this one is when he was like winning world titles all the time and actually like doing a lot. I just love Jericho. It's a biased pick.
Jericho is the GOAT.
Yeah. And my number one is Punk.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have the longest world title reign in modern history in a time frame and not be the number one guy there.
I mean, it's CM fucking Punk.
Yeah. You just can't not put him there. But yeah, that's my top five. There was a couple like I wanted to put Daniel Bryan in there, but
Me too.
I was never a big like WWE Daniel Bryan fan. I always liked Bryan Danielson more.
Yeah, same.
I don't know.
And, and not that I didn't like Daniel Bryan, like WrestleMania 30 is a great moment and like all that. It's just, yeah, it wasn't enough for me to be my personal top five.
Yeah.
Um, Up next is NXT. This includes now, and the way me and Sam both did this is just based off their NXT run, not off of how they done in the main roster. We're not gonna harm them for that. Number five for me, and I will preface this with, I'm not a big old NXT fan. I like pretty much anything after 2015, 2016 ish. Number five is Velveteen Dream. His feud with Aleister Black just sold me completely on him. I love Velveteen Dream. I think that kid's the future. He's young. He's good in the ring. Shoot that guy to the main roster. He deserves it. Number four is Samoa Joe. Loved Samoa Joe's Reign of Terror in NXT, and he was even a pretty good babyface when he tag teamed with Finn Balor, oddly enough. So that was fun. Number three is Shinsuke Nakamura. When Shinsuke debuted, I was so into him in NXT. I thought he was the coolest thing in the world. He was what really made me be like, ooh, I should check out what he came from, and started getting into NJPW. Number two is Finn Balor. Love the Demon. Love the entrance. Love the guy. In ring is awesome. His Samoa Joe feud is one of my favorite. And one of my favorite little random matches is actually kind of his go home match against Shinsuke on an NXT show. And there's just something about it that really gets me. Number one for me, though, is Aleister Black. I am a huge Aleister Black fan. I think that guy is the true second coming of that new Undertaker-esque character that is just that overbearing, creepy, but not cheesy. I don't even know how to describe it. Just that darkness, and he's so perfect at it. Yeah, I'm a big Aleister guy. Aleister Black and Velveteen Dreams match is arguably my favorite match of the year. We're not doing that, but that's probably one of my favorite matches of the year, if not. Yeah, that's my
Same.
top five.
Okay, so we did discuss ours. We didn't tell who they were, but we did say that we felt like we had one that would be the same, and our one is actually a different person than I thought it would
Oh,
be.
really?
Yeah. And you said that you like the newer NXT and not so much the older NXT, and I'm actually the other way around. So most of my list is going to be
Yeah.
littered with like the older NXT, like the first running of it.
Yeah.
And I did say we could include tag teams just so I could include this tag team. And it's a damn shame what's happened to them on the main roster, but my number five is the Ascension.
Aww.
Yeah.
They're
Their
funny, though.
their run in NXT as a tag team was just fucking incredible. And there's nothing you can do to get around that. You can't say, well, but no, the Ascension and NXT were an unstoppable force for a very long time.
I'm gonna be honest. I've never watched their NXT run.
You need to, because you'd be just as pissed off as I am about how badly they're being treated on the main roster. But yeah, the Ascension's my number five, and I made sure we could include tag teams just so I could include the Ascension. Because if not, I was going to put Connor and Victor on there individually. But my number four is Sami Zayn, and this was between Sami and Kevin. But Sami was the true lifeblood of NXT for a very long time, and I'm not saying I don't appreciate what Kevin did when he was there, but the things Sami did when he was in NXT really made NXT feel big.
Sammy was to NXT what Tommy Dreamer was to ECW.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. And he had my favorite match in NXT history with the guy who is my number three, and that's Neville. Neville showed a little bit of his heelish antics while he was in NXT as NXT champion, And like I said, he had my favorite match in NXT history was Sammy for the NXT title, which actually happens to be the same takeover that Kevin debuted at.
That's a fantastic match.
Yeah, it was a great match. It's my favorite NXT match, and it may be one of my favorite matches of all time. I don't know. Um, but yeah, Neville, he did a lot there. He was a great world champion, um, and he was a tag champion.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, he was a tag champion with Corey Graves.
Yeah, with Corey Graves.
I
Yeah,
completely
him,
forgot
Corey
about
Graves.
that. Yeah, so he may be the only guy in NXT who's ever been an NXT tag champion and NXT champion.
I think he is,
Yeah, so there's something else to add to his
unless
NXT resume.
unless Undisputed Era Freebirds it.
Yeah, which could happen. But as of right
Then
now,
yeah.
Neville's the Grand Slam NXT champion. Uh, and I know we didn't want to include main roster stuff, and I didn't include this in my criteria, but like he's done pretty well for himself on the main roster.
Absolutely, and his cruiserweight run has made the cruiserweight division bearable.
Yeah. My number 2 is Adam Cole,
Baby,
and this is the guy I thought that
oh
you were going to include.
man, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I thought of Adam Cole, that probably would have changed my list a lot.
Yeah, I thought Adam
Um,
Cole was going to be our meeting point in our list, but he wasn't, and
I
that's okay.
I completely forgot about him.
But Adam Cole, what is there to not like? There's so much you can talk about.
Yeah,
I could sit here all day and talk about how Adam Cole is just fantastic, but we have
he's
a few
Adam
more
Cole,
lists to get
baby.
to. Yeah, he's Adam Cole, baby. Um,
Um,
and my number 1 is Aleister Black.
love it.
And there's a lot of reasons for Aleister there, and for reasons outside of wrestling, he listens to the same music I listen to. Uh, he has the greatest interest theme on the roster out now. That's a fact. Um, and his wrestling style, like, this is going to sound really weird. I talked to this about Blue, or I talked about this with Blue before. Um, is every year on every WWE 2K game, I would create a wrestler for my career named Aiden Black, and he would do kicks, like really strong kicks, and he'd come out to heavy metal music or like hardcore music, whatever I could find that sounded the best.
And
And
then
then they
just kick
roll,
people.
and then just kick people. And then they roll Tommy End out there with the name Aleister Black, who matches up with the gimmick from my 2K character. And I'm just like, okay, all right, I'll just
It's
start
just
coming up
another.
with your gimmicks now.
It's just another idea that the big man has stolen from us.
Exactly. Yeah, I love everything about Aleister. He's just great. He's great.
Yeah,
Brother.
future champion, main roster champion by far.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Um,
His position on the Takeover Orlando. Good lord, I'm going back in time. His position on the Takeover New Orleans card is actually my deciding factor of if I want to go to Takeover this year.
Same.
That's the main thing. What it comes down to.
Yep. That'll determine whether we're going to take over Supercard of Honor.
Yep. But I'll let you go ahead and move into the next one.
Um, so our second to last list is our present day top 5 guys that are in the WWE right now. My number 5 might be a little unpopular, but Brock Lesnar. I enjoy Brock Lesnar as champion because it makes me care about the Universal title because I kind of forget that it exists. But at the same time, that's how the UFC is, and I'm a huge MMA fan. And that's just how I like my sports and my sports entertainment. So I love Brock. The guy puts on good matches despite what anybody says. He proved that with AJ. Him and AJ had a baller ass match. Whenever he wants it, he puts it on. Number 4 is Broken Matt Hardy, because Broken Matt Hardy is awesome. I don't even think we've gotten to see him in the ring yet, but I know it'll be great whenever we finally do. Um, Number 3 is Sami Zayn. I love heel Sami Zayn. That snarky attitude is the funniest thing on the face of the planet. When he walks out with his feet above his ears, just dancing to Kevin Owens music, it is so fucking funny. He's great in the ring. Eventually, he's gonna get that world title run. It's a matter of when, not if.
Number two, AJ Styles. In the ring, fantastic. On the mic, decent. Looks great with the WWE Championship. Greatest wrestler in the world right now. Makes sense. Number one is Kevin Owens. I think Kevin Owens is the overall greatest wrestler in WWE right now. He never puts on a bad performance in the ring. He doesn't get gassed out even though he's a bigger guy. On the mic, there is nobody better in the WWE right now. Yeah, I'm a big Kevin Owens fan. Big Blue kind of got me onto Kevin Owens. I like his stuff as Kevin Steen. Him and Generico's match at in ROH, their ladder match is one of my favorite matches of all time. So yeah,
And that's the thing with Blue that freaks me out is he's not a big like indie wrestling fan, but he like
no, but he knows a lot about older indie guys.
yeah, he showed me a lot about Steen and Generico that really freaked me out because like
he introduced me to Steen and Generico. I didn't know
yeah, same,
I
yeah,
didn't really know who they were before that.
yeah. It's I don't know, it's really weird to me because he's not the biggest indie fan. Like we'll talk about indie wrestling around him, he's like I don't know what the fuck you guys are talking about.
But I think he used to follow it pretty good though.
Yeah, but
yeah, that's our top five.
we'll run into mine, and your number one is my number five, Kevin Owens. And these aren't in order by any means, except the top two. My 1 and 2 are in order, but 5 through 3 are not at all. Kevin's in there for every reason you just said. And then number 4 is Sammy for every reason you just said. And I included Kevin and Sammy like right there together because they're doing a lot right now together. That I mean, they're in. You can say what you want about the WWE title, but like they're in the biggest storyline on SmackDown right now.
Absolutely, 100%. They're in the main. They are the main event of SmackDown right now.
Yeah, they're the reason I watch SmackDown right now. I just want to see where the hell it goes. It's a good story, which you don't get that a lot from WWE nowadays. I don't want to get into that. My number 3 is Samoa Joe, and he's the reason I'm watching Raw.
Smojo.
He's just killing everyone that he puts his eyes on.
Yep.
My number 2 is Rollins, and he kind of plays into the same reason I like Alistair so much. His wrestling style is really fun and entertaining to me, and if I was a wrestler, I'd probably be wrestling like Rollins is. Everything he does is really cool. The knee strikes, I wish he would do it more, but the Phoenix Splash.
I love his Phoenix Splash.
Yeah, and I almost included him on my NXT list, but stuff happens. I like him better on the main roster than I did in NXT anyway.
Same.
But yeah, Rollins is, he's one of my favorite wrestlers out there right now, and he's probably gonna be my first wrestling related tattoo. There's a little fun fact for you. And my number 1 is the most predictable pick I've had on any list, and it's Baron Corbin. And he could have been on my NXT list as well, but I couldn't justifiably put him on there above everyone else, who's like won the NXT title. He never did that, but he did put on great matches in NXT. This is about his main roster run. He's put on a lot of great matches on the main roster. I think his chairs match with Kalisto, which is a really weird thing for me to say, but his chairs match with Kalisto, I think, brought a lot of people around to him.
It was actually a fun and good match to have.
Yeah, and for him to have a good match in a stupid gimmick like a chairs match,
is hard to do.
I think that says a lot about him, and not just about him, but about Kalisto as well, because Kalisto did his part, but a lot of things Baron did in that match was really good. And I've been watching him since NXT, so like when he put on that match and everybody was saying, "Oh my God, Baron Corbin's actually good," I'm just sitting here like, I've done this for a long time. Where are you guys at? Where you guys been? You're sleeping on Baron Corbin, but Corbin's really great. I love him. Again, he listens to the same music I listen to. He wears the same like clothes that I wear, which is kind of weird. Like I've seen him show up on SmackDown with shirts that I own, and I'm just like, what? Stop.
I have that.
Yeah. I don't know. My only complaint is he needs to get his hairline fixed.
Baron Baldwin.
Yeah, but I've seen him with a shaved head, so it's really weird. I'd rather him almost keep the long hair with a bad hairline.
Yeah, same. It's creepy.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand how weird he looks with a shaved head.
No, it's awful. Google it if you want to be terrified.
It's the worst. I don't
So
actually know
then-
what our last list is because I don't have it written down, so this is going to be off the top of my
Oh.
head.
Well, I do, and it is our all-time favorites.
Oh, psh, I got this.
Um, number 5 for me. And all of these, my top two are pretty set in stone. Really, yeah, my top two are pretty set in stone. But the 3, 4, and 5 could all be mixed around. Number 5, Chris Jericho, the GOAT, the man of many faces, the man who can change the gimmick every year and always do great. Multi-time world champion. I'm stupidly excited for Wrestle Kingdom for multiple reasons. Mostly to finally see Tetsuya Naito win his world title. But I am so excited to see Chris Jericho and NJPW. I think it is going to be a spectacle and it's going to be great. Number 4, Eddie Guerrero. One of my favorite in-ring wrestlers of all time. Very technical. A lot of people don't even think about how technically savvy he was. Just spot on all the time. Some great submissions. The lasso from El Paso is one of my favorite submissions ever. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. I didn't mention any other places on this list, but I love Shawn Michaels. Probably my favorite in-ring storyteller ever. Every match that he has, I get hooked into, and him winning the first elimination chamber match is one of my favorite matches, one of my favorite moments of all time, despite the mom haircut and the brown pants. Number 2, RVD. Man, I said a lot about him, but I love RVD. My favorite match of all time is when he beat Cena for the world title, and he's holding up both the ECW and the WWE titles. I wish he would do a little bit more indie wrestling, but whatever. Love RVD. Number 1 is, I think that's kind of predictable for me. I'm a huge Edge head. I didn't appreciate him until after he retired. Really. Then I rewatched him, and I was like, man, that guy knew what he was doing. He knew how to work a crowd. He knew how to work a small child like me. In the ring, he was amazing. His spear is probably one of my favorite finishers ever. The way he hits it and then pops his head back up and swings his head back, it finishes. But yeah, that's my top 5 all time.
Okay, I've actually talked about everyone on my top 5. And we talked about this earlier, how, like, my number 1 is always the same, but everyone before him, it's always different.
Yeah.
This is always changing, but as of right now, my number 5 is Punk.
Okay.
And a lot of people hate on that, and that's okay. I like Punk. He, just like fucking Rollins and Alistair, he listens to the same music I'll listen to.
Yep.
His look. I remember the day he came out on ECW to Killswitch Engage, and I was just like, what in the fuck? And what's really weird is Killswitch released that album before he debuted on WWE programming. And his
Really?
entrance theme, his entrance theme was a bonus song on the album.
Okay.
And I remember listening to it, I was like, this is a really good song. Why didn't they put this on the album? And then he came out to that song, and I was like, oh my god, it's all making sense now. Yeah, I love Punk. I hate the way he left the company, and that really sucks, but that doesn't really change my opinion on how great of a wrestler he is.
No, not at all.
My number 4 is Taker. And I've already touched on everything he's done. He's a great wrestler. He's always in good stories. He's a good talker, and he managed to keep a really stupid gimmick relevant for a really stupid amount long of a time.
Hey, you did it well though.
Yeah, he did it very well. And I don't know if there's anyone who could have done it that well for that long. I mean, he made essentially a zombie gimmick work in the year 2017 still. Like, he lasted all the way to 2017 with that gimmick.
He could come back today, and I'd be like, oh my god, he came back from the dead.
Yeah. That's, Like when those buried alive matches, you're like, oh, he's not really dead, but you're like, oh wait, he's already dead. Like it makes sense why he keeps coming back.
They can bury him alive all they want because he's always going to come back.
Yeah, and he's a part of a lot of like great moments from me growing up watching wrestling. We're moving on. My number 3 is Edge.
Yeah,
You know, I've already touched on him like 3 or 4 times throughout this whole thing. There's not much more to be said about him. He's just great. He also has the greatest entrance theme of all time.
Metalingus is my favorite entrance song ever.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I know we're doing our like 30 days of wrestling facts and stuff like that, and I said Punk, but I wish I could go back in time and say Edge, because Edge's theme is amazing. It fits him really well.
Yep.
And my number 2, I spoiled this because I kind of forgot we were doing this list. My number 2 is Arn Anderson.
Yeah.
And I can't say any more about that than I already did. Yeah, he's the he's the one outlier out of everyone, because everyone on my list is like pretty recent, like within the last 10 to 15 years, and Arn's like a pretty old school, like old wrestler.
Yeah.
But I just love Arn Anderson, man.
I do love his whole look is just badass.
Yeah, he just looks like a badass, but when he talks, the voice doesn't match up with the appearance, and that's okay, because I kind of dig it. It's like you said something about Kenny Omega's like promo styles, like the way he talks.
Yeah.
I know you said
Yes.
you liked it and you thought it was weird, but like I really enjoy it, and I think it fits his character really well. But I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore.
It's different and it's fun.
Yeah. And my number 1's Jericho. It's always been Jericho. It's never changed. The dude's just fantastic. I don't think he's ever been in a match that was like, every match he's ever been in is above average, at least.
Absolutely.
He's never been in a mediocre match, and he has a great entrance theme, and he has a pretty good band.
And he's just the GOAT.
Yeah, he's just a legitimate real life badass,
Yep.
and I'm ready to see his match at Wrestle Kingdom.
Thank God, and then hopefully see him at WrestleMania.
Oh, that'd be nice. That would be nice.
But yeah, those are our top 5s.
I guess that's it. That was a pretty good one.
That was fun.
Yeah, we'll try to do some more stuff like this, but I just wanted to get something out there since we weren't doing the recaps, because the holidays and our schedules are kind of screwed up right now, but we had free time today.
Figured why the fuck not bust something kind of long and fun out.
Yep. But it was fun. I really enjoyed doing it.
Yep, I think we're going to go watch some in JPW now.
We are definitely going to do that.
Alright, peace out. Thanks, guys.
Peace.
The time or the patient.